there, my name is Gill Tiney. This is the BeCollaboration podcast called The Journey of Possibility. What could happen? Who knows? I'm really pleased to say that I'm joined today by Sanjay Shah, who has a remarkable business and has an amazing specialism that we're going to delve into around emotional intelligence. So I think he's going to find out if I'm emotionally intelligent or not. Whether we'll have a temper tantrum over it, I don't know, maybe. So Sanjay, welcome. Lovely to have you on the podcast.
Hello, Jill.
Lovely to have you here. I don't know if you'll see behind me, every so often it's been pelting down with rain. I mean, talk about April showers in May. It's been quite crazy. So hopefully the sun will come out soon and you'll see a different version out the back there. So Sanjay, you've been part of BeCollaboration for coming up for a year, something like that?
That's right. Yeah.
What was it that first attracted you to get involved with the community?
I kept on hearing about BeCollaboration from one of the other members, Jackie. Mm-hmm. And every now and then, whenever we spoke, and we used to speak fairly frequently, mm-hmm. She would say, "Oh, you've got to meet Gill, you've got to meet Erkan." And so it was always at the back of my mind, and I was a bit intrigued as to what it was all about, because a lot of people speak about collaboration, but they don't necessarily practice it. And it turns into more of a competition when you really get down to it.
Yes.
So I didn't really pay that much attention initially, but she kept on mentioning it. And if Jackie keeps on mentioning something, then you've got to pay attention to that. So exactly. One day I just happened to be free on the day that there was a BeCollaboration meeting, but it was in London, which is close to 100 miles from where I live. Yeah. But I thought, okay, I've got the day free, I'm going to invest my time. And so I caught a train down to London and to the meeting. And what really got to me straight away was the friendliness and the openness of the people. That there really was a community which felt like it was open to sharing and to speaking with each other and to really get to know each other, because the danger with a lot of networking type meetings is you go there, you exchange cards, but you never really get to know the person. And I'm very much of a people person that likes to get to know people, especially people that I'm going to work with or collaborate with or recommend to my customers. And straight away I got that here was a real group that seemed to be doing that. And I think within probably half an hour of being at that meeting, and I was there for the rest of the afternoon, I knew I was going to join. I had no idea at that time how much it was going to cost or what it was going to be, but I knew I was going to join, even though I would have to travel, close to 100 miles every time.
That's a long way.
I decided that it was worth the time that I would spend on that.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people, what they say is there's something in the air. There's like an energy. And one of the famous quotes we've had from one of our guests was like, "Well, you're just a bunch of people that love each other." And although that sounds really flippant, the energy in the room is, we've done an exercise of how we can raise the energy and raise the vibration and raise this kind of essence of anything is possible. And that's why I think a lot of people do feel this, they're all coming in and they hug each other. What's that all about? Well, if you're kind of left brain, detail, analytical driven type person, sometimes you're like, thanks very much, well, I'll shake your hand if I want to do that. But it's just kind of understanding that because we're all there and we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference from the global perspective of what if we could change the world? What would that look like? As opposed to, or including, how could I make a difference to you sitting next to me? And I know one of the first things you said to me at that meeting was like, I think I can help the people here. I think it would be amazing. And you've obviously spoken to various different people, but what's lovely is it's a two-way street, is they want to help you as well. So you're not just coming to go, well, I'm going to share all my stuff and then they're going to take it and they're going to use it. And then what's left for me? It's they want to help you with their stuff, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah. And I remember coming in for the first time and just as you were speaking, I had this thought, it's a bit cheesy, but I'll share it. We should have a new theme tune. And I don't know who wrote the song, but it's the one titled Love is in the Air.
Oh, yes.
The reaction of people as they walk into that.
That's true. That is very true. We could do that. I've had so many theme tunes. The other one was Pharrell Williams with Happy.
Yeah.
I thought, I wonder if he'd let us have copyright of that so we can use it as our theme tune. Maybe one day. So what got you on the journey to emotional intelligence? Where did that all come from?
Quite simply, when I first, I guess, started on this path, I felt I was screwed up. I'd been through a lot of trauma in my life. Nothing kind of in the scale of trauma that other people have been through, but it was traumatic for me.
Yeah.
And in that process, I realized that actually I was far more sensitive than anybody thought I was. But the sum total of that was internally I felt that I was screwed up and it couldn't be put right. And life was what life was.
Right.
The only thing is it got worse. And I arrived at a point at which I knew I had to do something, or what was the point of living? And very fortunately, things started to happen, and that led to a whole series of coincidences or synchronicity. I don't know which one, and I don't really care, because where I've arrived at is a completely different place to where I was. They couldn't be further apart.
Wow.
And that's the result of the journey that I find myself on, and the people that I met along the way, and the connections I made. And that it's by no means over. But what I know is the guy that's standing here is not the guy that felt screwed up.
So how long ago was that? When did that journey start?
I guess the first kind of elements of it were kind of in the late 80s, early 90s, and around 91, I arrived at a point at which life really couldn't get any worse, and I found myself doing what I call bouncing along the bottom of life, which is getting up each day, putting on the mask, and going out into the world, and everybody thought I was okay, but deep down inside, I felt terrible.
Oh, it's a horrible feeling.
And I kept up that pretense.
How long did you keep it up for?
3 years. The best part of 3 years.
Yeah.
Then, kind of around that time, something really fortunate happened. Is I got made redundant, and that threw me out of the job that I was in, and I came back to Birmingham, where I originated from.
So was it the job that was causing the unhappiness, or was it someone?
No, I kind of ended up in the job, and it was a nice, comfortable job. It was in chartered accountancy, but I didn't really enjoy it, and yet I didn't know what I could do to get out of it, because I felt so rotten there, and hence kind of getting up each day and putting on the mask.
Yeah.
So being made redundant actually threw me out of that situation into another one, which I didn't enjoy at the beginning. I was back with my parents. I ended up working in the family business, which is the very reason I moved away in the first place, to avoid doing that. And years later, I found myself in it temporarily, but that temporary job turned into full-time for a number of years, because my dad's health took a turn for the worse.
Right.
And then when he passed away, the owner of the business decided that he wanted to get out, because he didn't want that stress. And because it was a family business, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I don't really want to stay here. So he put the business up for sale. It got sold, and I found myself without a job again. But now, in the intervening period, whilst I was there, because it was a family business, I could actually take time off to train myself up in various different skills, and that's where I kind of really got interested in personal development, and went to do all sorts of courses, and then ended up training in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnosis, and then journey therapy and various other things. So I was pretty well skilled in various disciplines. But so the job which I wanted to do would actually gave me the freedom to take time off, because of the nature of the business. And again, this is what I'm saying is, this is a blessing that quite often we see as a curse, but if we really open up to it, we can see what the potential is.
So when you were a child at school, say 7 or 8 years of age, what was it you used to love doing? What was the thing that shone for you?
If I'm honest, childhood wasn't fun. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't fun because I wasn't a popular kid. I was the odd one out, or it felt like that. And because I was kind of clumsy, people made fun of that. I wasn't particularly clever, so I grew up in Kenya where there were two levels of class, the upper tier and all the rest. And I was just about in the upper tier, but not really excelling in it anyway. So in that upper tier, I was seen as one of the people that couldn't cut it. And so I was made of fun there as well. So I was made fun of whilst I was there because I wasn't regarded as one of the brainy ones. And then when we came to England, a transformation took place because overnight, the moment I entered junior school here, because I was still at that age, from being regarded as a bit of a dunce, I was regarded as a genius because I knew the 12 times table by heart and I could spell perfectly as well.
The important stuff, really.
So now I wasn't popular because I was a teacher's pet.
Oh, you can't win, can you?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? The British dynamic. I remember going to school and being in the naughty class in the school, which was a pretty rough school in the area. So it's like the lowest of the low. But I was numerate and literate, and I could pick that up relatively easily. But I would never dream of letting my peers know that I could do it, because then you were bullied because you were clever. So it was seen you had to kind of play it all down and not.
Yeah, and I guess with me, I didn't know the culture. I didn't really know how things operated here, so I just did so they gave me a test. I answered the questions. I didn't think anything beyond that. And the very first test was on the very first day of school, and so I just answered it and quickly found out that wasn't the clever thing to do either.
It's horrible though, isn't it? Why can't children, well, obviously it's what they're learning from their parents and the people around them, but why are they not celebrating success rather than making you feel awful around it? So it's interesting. So you were relatively academic and clever from the British perspective, but what were the subjects and the things that you enjoyed doing as a child? It might have been out of school. What was
it was out of school, and I became quite introverted here. I was a lot more extroverted, I think, when I was in Kenya. And the culture changed, the change in country and climate and people. I went in on myself. But the key thing, I think, that really kind of exacerbated that was I discovered the books and libraries, and I became a real bookworm. So at the age of 11, I was reading anything up to 5 books a week. And I was reading something like The Lord of the Rings at the age of 11, and I didn't know at that time that apparently you're not meant to read it until later on. It was just something that I got into.
That was your escape, wasn't it, into a different world?
Yeah, and it was an escape into this fantasy world of whatever book I was in, because I wasn't bullied. I was the hero. And what that did was 2 things, though. That really improved my English and my grasp of English, which then had its own repercussions as well. And the other thing which wasn't so great was because I became an introvert, I felt socially inadept. So whenever I met people, I felt a bit awkward.
Do you think there's a lot of discussion around this, isn't there? There's introvert, extrovert, omnivert, is it the other one? Do you feel that you were naturally, as a child, an extrovert, and as a result of coming to the UK, became an introvert, or do you think you're naturally an introvert and you were allowed to be an extrovert back in Kenya?
I think I'm naturally more introverted, but in Kenya, the society was different. So you weren't really allowed to be introverted, even if you were. The society was a lot more open. There was a lot more social. And so you didn't really get a chance to be introverted. When we came here, because the society was very different, and the front door was closed, and people wouldn't just walk through it as they would back there, because all the neighbours regarded each other's houses as home. And I was in and out of our neighbour's house all the time, and vice versa. So I think I became more introverted initially, but that wasn't natural either, because that was, I'm a bit of both. So being totally introverted didn't suit me, and being very sociable didn't suit me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were these two extremes, and I was kind of going from one extreme to another, when actually I was in the middle.
Mm. And presumably now you can switch it around. So, for example, my husband, when people see him out and about networking, they say, "Oh, he's an extrovert, for goodness sake," and he's not naturally. It's not. He has to kind of go, right, I'm going to put my extrovert hat on now, and I'm going out and doing that, and gets on with it. And
I'd say I'm still kind of an introvert, but once I get talking to people, that initial kind of resistance disappears very quickly, and I can be quite sociable.
Yeah.
I'm still a quieter one, but not so quiet that I can't mix with people. And I seem to have a much better balance on that. And with all the work that I've done, it's much easier to start talking to people as well.
So going through all this wonderful NLP learning and personal development, you eventually came across emotional intelligence, and it's kind of something.
Yeah, not by that time. Yeah, when I came across it, it wasn't really even a word that existed much, and it's really only in the last 10 years that it's become a buzzword, and now businesses are talking about it. But at that time, the way I came across it was more by accident, because I was really curious about these different types of courses. And so I just threw myself in to whatever I found. And through that, I came across tools which were even better than the ones that I'd learned. Because whilst I was getting tremendous results from using NLP and hypnosis and all the other things that I'd come across, I realized that quite often the results didn't last, that after a while the effects would wear off. And also with the people that I was helping, because I love to help people, and I realized that I seemed to have a talent for helping them, and a lot of people were encouraging me to actually go and get trained up even more, so that I could help people even more professionally. And the disturbing thing for me was, whilst there was change, quite often they seemed to slowly revert back to where they were. Not always, there were people that changed and they never reverted back, but a lot of people, more than I was comfortable with, seemed to revert back. And then the kind of the thought was, either I'm not very good at what I do, even though people say I am, or there's something that's not quite there with the tools that I've got.
I think this is one of the continuing conversations that people have, where they go to these amazing Unleash the Power Within weekend, and they have the rah and everything's fantastic and it's brilliant, and then they come splat back down to earth on Monday morning, and like, what the hell was that? And then you have to, I remember Erkan always saying about, we're in a goldfish bowl and we're swimming around in this murky water, and somebody reaches in and pulls you out and shakes you off, and you go, oh wow, there's this whole other world out there and this is different and I love it. And then you get thrown back in the water and you're like, oh, this water, it's so dirty and I don't like it and I want to be out there. And then after a while, you kind of get used to the dirty water again. You don't even see it. That you don't, because you're in it all the time. You don't see what the problems are, and then you go back to that. And if you're lucky, you recognise it and go, "Oh, I'm having that same argument again. Oh, we're going through this all over again." And then
I mean, when I first came across Tony Robbins, I guess it was one of the first major courses I did, and I did initially wonder what the hell I'd walked into. But once I got on with it, I liked it. But one of the things that you do on the courses, and they're quite kind of in NLP language, visual, whereas there is a lot of kind of visual movement and a lot of jumping up and down and rah-rah. You come up with what they call your power move, and my power move was pretty dramatic, until somebody said to me, how the hell are you going to use that in the office when you want to get energized?
Would you like to demonstrate? What was your power move?
And quickly I realized, actually, it wasn't very user-friendly in the public environment. You were actually embarrassed to do anything like that outside of that room.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember Amy Cuddy on a TED talk talking about empowering yourself. You should just go to the toilet and stand there and do your power moves so that you can actually raise your vibration and raise your energy in order to feel better. But like you say, sometimes it's not that convenient to go off and do the rah-rah.
Unfortunately for me, I discovered that actually you could achieve everything without having to do those things, because everything that I teach now still achieves the same result, but it's done internally. But only you are aware that you're actually doing anything. And so I've been speaking to, say, a group of 300 people. I walk out to the front, I turn around, and internally my brain goes, "Oh shit." At that point, you can't do the power moves.
No.
What I'm doing is I'm practicing internally what I teach, and so nobody in the audience has any idea that I'm actually tricking myself.
Yes, yeah.
Because all they see is what I want them to see.
Yeah.
And I can still do what I need to do. I can relay all the information without forgetting things. Everything looks great, and it is great because I just applied everything internally without having to show anything on the outside.
I like the idea of remembering everything. That's a daily challenge for me. It's sort of what was I going to say next? I forgot what I was going to say next. One of the things that one of our collaborators did share with us was about at one of the master classes was her thought field therapy that she does. Have you come across, obviously, emotional field therapy? Thought field therapy apparently is like the next one on. I don't know if you disagree with that, but that's what I've been told. And one of the things that she told us about was squeezing the fingernail bed so that your endorphins can kind of make you feel awake. And she said, try it the next time you feel nervous. And I'm like, I'm not often nervous. And then the very next weekend, Erkan and I were at an event, and we'd been given an opportunity to talk to, 300 people for 5 minutes to say, in essence, what you need to say in a very short space of time. When normally we talk and we have half an hour, and we can go on, which is easy. But when you only have 5 minutes and you've got to say so I was hearing this person introducing us, and I was first up, and I knew I only had a few minutes to do this thing. And I could feel the butterflies go. I could feel the nerves going. And I'm like, I don't get nervous in front of the room. What's going on? Oh my goodness. So I was like, okay, Kay, do your thing. So I did this squeezing the finger thing. Because at the point I knew that I would get so nervous if I didn't do something that I'd be standing there and go, what's my name? It would have been that much of a blank that I wouldn't have been able to not only not deliver a decent talk in that short space of time, but also, one, I'd miss the point, and two, I would look an idiot. And it's that fear of falling on your face, isn't it? So I just literally did that while I was waiting for them to, and all of a sudden I could I'd clear mind, and I went on and I did it, and I'm like, whoa, this is a miracle, this is amazing. So I guess what you're teaching people is a similar version of that, but in a more holistic sense around all the things that are going on for them. So give us an example of a success story. Tell us a success story that you've had with one of your clients.
Okay. Gosh,
it's hard, isn't it? Pick one from 20.
Okay. This is the one that came to mind, and it's a story that I actually relate on one of my seminars. So it is a bit extreme, but if it's okay, I'll share that. So he was a client, a lady who was referred to me many years ago, and I'd come across some more or a different way of doing some of the stuff I was already doing. So a kind of not completely different, but it was enough for me to want to learn about it. And so I'd gone away, learned about it, but I hadn't really applied it with anybody. And this lady, and her name was Lisa, and I got permission just to share her story from her. She came to me. She was referred by a chiropractor who said to me, there's nothing physically wrong with her, but she has all these pains. Would you mind seeing her? You might be able to do something. And in those days, I worked a bit differently to the way that I work now. So I agreed to see her. Nowadays, I kind of interview people before I meet them as to whether or not it'd be a kind of a good match for both of us to work with each other. In those days, I had a quick chat on the phone, and she came over. Now, she came from London, so she came by train to Birmingham, and I picked her up from the station and took her back to the place I was working at, the office. one thing I noticed straight away at the station, she was standing there, and it was like a chain smoker type of smoking, because she was extremely nervous, and I knew a bit about what she'd been through, but I didn't know the detail. And I realized my mistake as soon as I started speaking with her, because I said to her, okay, Lisa, so tell me a bit about yourself, because the chiropractor said that she can't really find anything wrong with you. And she was very quiet when we got back. She wasn't smoking, so she was looking even more nervous. And she said, well, it started 7 years ago. And I thought, okay, I wonder what was going to come. And she said, I was on a holiday with my brother, and he committed suicide whilst we were on holiday. And the basic sort of some of the story is they came back, she came back, and her mother blamed her for not being around when her brother died. And through police investigations or whatever else had happened, they found out that actually the reason her brother had committed suicide was he'd been raped whilst he was out one of the evenings. So he'd gone out on his own, and he couldn't deal with it, I guess, and he committed suicide. But she said, I never really had a good relationship with my mother, and it got even worse. And quite often I thought of taking my own life, and then the only reason I didn't was I thought, I don't want my friends to go through what I've been through. Now remember, she's saying this very quietly. She's very nervous. She's speaking quietly, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to help her. And she said, and after about 18 months, I was finally getting over it. And then I came home, and there was a letter on the table, and it was a suicide note from her mother.
Oh my goodness.
And I was still okay until she told me what the note said. And the note had only 3 words: it's your fault. And I thought, and excuse the language, but how the F do I help this person?
Yeah, that's tragic.
Because it just blew my mind, because I've never come across somebody who'd been through that sort of experience. And the only thing I could think of was this course I'd been on a few weeks earlier, and I thought, I'm going to just
give it a go
with this. And so we worked for probably the best part of 2 hours or so before she had to catch a train back. And she seemed, there were a lot of tears. She went away, and then she was due to come back 2 weeks later, but I'd phoned her about a week later just to check in. And I guess I wasn't listening that much, because on the phone she'd said, I'm okay. But when she came back, I said to her, Lisa, okay, let's pick up where we left off. And she said, no, I'm okay. It's okay. I did what you asked me to do. I continued to practice the method you taught me. And as we spoke, I realized 7 years of pain had just gone within, just a few hours.
Wow. And
I realized for the first time the power of some of the work that I come across, because to me, this, even today, many, many years later, I'm talking about 15 years later, this is still an extreme case of somebody in pain. And so we spent the next 2 sessions, because she was scheduled to see me for 3 sessions, working on other issues like self-confidence and self-esteem, which had taken a knock with everything that had happened. And I touched base with her a few years later. I don't know where she is now, but at that time, she was happily married. She had her own child now. And it kind of, what I remember, one of the things she said to me in that initial talk was, I'm fed up and I'm going to give this one more go. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to give up. But because I didn't know her full story, I didn't know what meant. It was only later on realized maybe she was talking about giving up as in suicide. I don't know, but for her,
it's kind of good that you didn't know, because that would have been incredible amount of pressure on you to. So that's the power of some of the stuff that you do. And so do you
the beauty is it was all verbal. There was nothing kind of we had to do physically.
So do you find the people that come to you are in desperation stakes, or is it somebody that would come along and say, I've had a row with someone and I can't get over it?
There's been a change. When I came across this, I was coming at this from more of a therapeutic angle. So I saw a lot of people who are in pain for different reasons. I worked with a lot of people who'd been diagnosed with terminal illnesses, mainly cancer at that time, and some lived through it and some didn't. But I learned something from all of them. I learned more about living because I worked with these people who were actually dying than I did through my life.
Yeah.
And then as I kind of progressed, I started to get more and more into the business market, and it was mainly business women who came to see me. So 80-90% of my clients were business women.
Okay.
And their issues weren't as traumatic as Lisa's. And quite often it wasn't anything to do with their personal lives. It was more around work, how to get a promotion they felt stuck, or how to deal with a predominantly male environment.
Yeah.
One of the ones which came up quite often was they were having issues at home with their husbands, if they were married, or partners. And what that was, I realized, was that they were in a mainly male-dominated arena where they picked up the male energy, and when they came back home again, they were still carrying the male energy. So now we had two male energies kind of conflicting.
Yeah, we all know what happens there.
Yeah, so it was things like that.
Yeah.
And then more and more it was around performance. And then as time went on, I started to work with a lot of chartered accountants.
Because you understand their pain, don't you, having been there?
From small to medium companies who were actually already successful, because I happened to be introduced to one of them, and through him I met a lot of others who were all very successful in their own right. So they weren't coming to me because they wanted to be more successful. They were coming to me because primarily they didn't want to become more successful. They were already successful, but they didn't have all the things that they thought they would have when they became successful. It wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And so with them, I worked not on success, but on how to feel more fulfilled and happy through what they were doing. And it involved exactly the same skills as the ones that I was using with people who were dying. And so nowadays, I tend to get people who are actually already pretty okay in life, but they want something more meaningful out of their life.
They've ticked lots of boxes, and then they've realised that there's something that's actually missing, and they can't work out what that is.
Yeah, because they got into business for a number of reasons. One was to feel as if they were making a difference, that they were somebody, and two, to get financial freedom. Well, they had the financial freedom. They were also making a difference, but they still weren't happy, and they couldn't quite figure out, because they had everything else, but the one thing that ultimately they wanted to be a particular type of person.
Yeah.
But what they discovered was, in the path to success, the person they became was not the person that they wanted to become, but another type of person. And so I teach them how to go from the person that they are, that they don't like, to become the person they always wanted to be, and to not lose the success along the way.
Yes. Yes. Because a lot of people equate monetary success with what's the expression about the root to all evil.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, actually money isn't evil. It's just the people that use it wrongly. that's
and that even isn't the issue. I think their fear is, if they become the type of person they wanted to be, they might lose the success. And I showed that actually the two aren't related. Success and who they are very different, and they can have both.
Yeah. So, as an example, what could you explain an exercise or something you would do with somebody in order to free them up from that kind of bond that they're in, prisoner of their own making?
It's really kind of making the internal connections, and realizing that the belief systems that they grew up with aren't really true. It's just something that they've adopted. So what they, generally speaking, when we grow up, we adopt the beliefs of the people around us.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily fit in with who we are. And so through talking and exploring, really, I teach them how to become the person that they want to be, but that's through the route of emotional intelligence. So in emotional intelligence, there is a specific pathway through the emotions. So there is no emotion which is good or bad. They're just regarded as different forms of energy. And the trouble with us is whenever we label something, the next thing we do is judge it as good or bad.
Yeah. It's instinctive, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
So, you know, sort of things that are like guilt, shame, or fear, we're labeled as bad, and we don't want to feel them, compared to joy, love, happiness. But all they are just different types of energy. That if once you treat them as energies, you realize that some energies allow you to do more than other energies. So if I describe it as if I give you this analogy, imagine driving in a car from point A to point B. Nowadays, you'd use a sat-nav system if you didn't know the way. In the old days, we used to use maps. So let's use the sat-nav system. When you program the coordinates into the sat-nav system, you have to be very precise, because if you get those coordinates slightly wrong, you end up at a completely different destination.
Yeah.
The mind is very good for programming where you want to go. But the sat-nav system in the car doesn't work out the route. It communicates with the satellite in the sky, which tells it which instructions to give, to turn left, to turn right, to go over the roundabout, whatever the instructions are, but not the unit itself.
Yeah.
And so in humans, we're the same. So the mind equates to the sat-nav system.
Okay.
But the emotions have a different role. So we have different intelligence systems. There's the mind, there's the emotions, and then there's the gut instinct. These are three distinct intelligence systems which have completely different rules. So the rules that we've learned predominantly are the rules of the mind. That's what our school system is based on. The rules of emotions don't work that way. So is it any wonder that most people can't get on with emotions? Because we've not been taught the rules of emotions on this. So you're going on this journey, and in the car, would you drive from A to B just in first gear, or would you drive in the highest gear that you could? So most people would drive in the highest gear. Why would they drive in the highest gear that they can go in? There's two reasons. One is the higher the gear, the faster you can go from A to B. And also the fuel economy. So you get more miles per gallon. Now in emotions, you don't have to go up and down a gear. You just decide which gear you want to drive in, and you can drive in that gear. So the lower level emotions are the lower gears. The higher level emotions are the higher gears. If you could choose which gear to drive in, you'd always choose the highest gear, because you'd go further and you'd get there faster. That's the role of emotions in the journey.
Yeah.
If you want to go to your goal, all you have got to do is decide which gear to drive in, and you'll get there quicker and with less wasted fuel, so more efficiently. How that relates to in action is the same action can produce a greater result. So effectively, emotions affect you in how quickly you achieve your goals and how easily you achieve them. On this, so they're the kind of the powerhouse of achieving your goals.
Brilliant. It's interesting, isn't it? Because heart, mind, and you want to say soul, but you said gut, and this gut instinct that you have is is your soul, isn't it? That you find.
And why is it called the gut instinct? Because it's down in the gut.
And it happens, doesn't it?
Not up in the head, which is where we try to look for it.
I find, for me personally, when I'm nervous about something, or I'm feeling unsure, or the instinct is kicking in, I'm feeling it in my stomach, like, oh, this isn't a good thing. But if I'm excited by something, it's like the fear and excitement are one of the same thing. You know, that the actual feeling is the same. But if I'm excited because I might be scared about it, but I'm excited about it, it's all kind of up here with the heart. But if it's like, oh, I'm not sure, it's the emotion is down in your stomach, and it's almost like going to dropping into your boots of like, oh, I don't want to do this, I'm not really sure.
So let me make a distinction there. When you say, oh, I'm not sure, I don't want to do this, that's not an emotion, that's a thought. And the thoughts are up here. So quite often when we think of emotions, we are literally thinking of them, not feeling them.
Yeah.
The only way you can use emotions is to experience them, but we're too scared to experience them because of what we think is going to happen. So hence a lot of what is labeled as emotional intelligence out there at the moment isn't true emotional intelligence. It's the mind intelligence rebadged as emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got to listen to what your body and what it's telling you, and then you can do the thinking once you've understood where the emotion's coming from.
So in a computer or a recording in the human system, from the neck up is a recording and playback device.
Yeah.
The delete button isn't up here, it's in the body.
Right.
So in order to let go of all the stuff that we accumulated up there, you need to get into the body to delete it. And the reason why so many people are in therapy for so long is they're trying to delete it from up here, and it doesn't work.
So once something has been deleted, going back to our original conversation around NLP, and it's a short fix and not a long-term fix, as far as you're concerned in your sphere of expertise, once it's been deleted, that's it, it's gone?
Yeah, because it's like pressing the Alt-Delete button on a computer keyboard. It is completely gone. Now, that doesn't mean let me demonstrate it this way. I've kind of just happened to have this. If you have a tissue box and you take a tissue out, and I think this is about to run out, so just bear with me. So if you take that tissue out, what happens next?
And the next one comes through.
Yeah, so another one comes through.
Yeah.
You pull that out, and another one comes through.
Yeah.
How do you know when that tissue box is empty?
When nothing comes through the next time.
Exactly.
So
but you don't know until, so you have to keep on. But there may be so many layers in there that up here might be a layer called anger. And then there'll be all sorts of other layers, and there might be another layer called anger. When that one comes out, you know, it's not a case of, oh, it came back. No, it was just another layer in the box.
Yeah, yeah.
So in humans, when these things come up, we automatically think it never went away. It's not that, it's just there are different layers built in. So the first level of emotional intelligence is to be able to just pull that tissue out. But you'd be here for decades trying to do that, because we already spent decades stuffing all of this down. So the next thing to do is take that box and just chuck it away. And another box comes up.
Yeah.
Chuck it away, and another box comes up. But the thing is, that's much quicker than taking it out a layer at a time.
Yeah. So do you find your client base is basically predominantly a lot of angry people? Do you recognize it when you see them?
Not at all. There are certain types of people that are angry, and there is a whole kind of knowledge around this. We as humans run certain types of programs, and depending on the operating system, if I call it, that we run, whether it's Windows or Apple or Linux or whatever, there are human operating systems. Depending on the operating system that you're running will dictate most of the types of feelings you tend to have most of the time. You'll still experience everything else, but you'll have more of certain types of feelings. And so, yeah, there are literally angry people, and there are sad people, and there are fearful people. But if you know what your operating system is, then you know the rules of how it operates, and you can upgrade that operating system to run better.
So it's an awareness.
You can't get rid of Windows and install Apple.
Right.
You still run Windows, but for me, I was running Windows 65 for 30 years. No wonder it was a mess 30 years later. I upgraded it to Windows 95. And suddenly I was working better, and I'm still upgrading it every year because it takes into account all of life's experiences.
So how long did it take you to kind of cotton onto this and adjust your life accordingly because of what you learned?
For me, individually, years, because it wasn't taught in England. I had to go to America to really learn it. There was nobody here that could help me.
Yeah.
And it was only when I went to America consistently for a period of time that I really became good at it. Now there are people in the UK like myself, and I say, I do a 3-day retreat, and people come there, and the number of times we captured it on video at the end, testimonials of people say, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago or 30 years ago, because in 3 days, they managed to leave behind all the stuff they've been hanging on to for decades.
Yeah.
Because once you learn how fast this is, you can do amazing things with it very quickly. So in 3 days, you can make a transformation. But just like you have a house cleaning, a spring clean at the beginning of the year, doesn't mean you can't
clean it again.
that you get away with not cleaning it.
Yeah.
You have to maintain it, but the maintenance is easy compared to the big clean.
Yeah, because you've already had a head start, haven't you?
Yeah. And then after a while, it becomes a habit. And it's just like breathing. You don't think about it, you just breathe.
Fascinating. So what are your aspirations for what you're doing at the moment? Where are you headed with it?
Where I am now, I'm beginning to teach a number of other people to do what I've learned to do, in the way that I've learned to do it. So that now, for the first time since I came across this, my own particular way of doing things is being taught to other people who are then beginning to work with the people in their communities. So my aspirations are that what I discovered, and to me, it's been a real gift. It's literally saved my life and then allowed me to make something of it. I like to pass on to other people so that they can do the same. So they have an experience of the greatness within them, and then they start to live as that great person rather than the limited person that they've accepted themselves as.
That's a lovely legacy to leave, isn't it? When you know you've affected and touched that many people's lives, and it's ongoing, especially when you're training other people and then they start doing it for other people as well. It's a lovely thing.
And what I love about it is the diversity of the people that are learning from me. So these aren't people who just come to my courses. These are the people who come and help me on my courses. And so the diversity of the people is, there's been there is a doctor, a solicitor, an HR director of a hospital, amongst other professionals. And these are the quality of people that are beginning to get this now. And because of their role within their careers, they have the ear of a lot of other people. And so they can start to teach them.
Fantastic. So how do you see your role within BeCollaboration and the opportunity to collaborate further? What would you like to achieve within that?
To allow people to really get to a place where they can connect with other people within the community at a much deeper level. And by deeper, I don't mean necessarily spend more time together, but when they are together, to have a more meaningful connection where they can really trust each other to help each other to achieve the best for each other, not just for themselves. And when you have a community of people doing that, that's when the world starts to change. It takes more than just a few individuals.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So we have got you coming up for a Know and Be Known fairly soon, haven't we, I believe?
That's right.
Is it the London group or the Hertford group?
It's the London group.
The London group. Okay. Well, that will be advertised fairly shortly, and hopefully people will come and listen to an hour of your journey and what you're about, and maybe that will be the first step towards sharing what you do with our community and seeing how we can empower them. Because I know there are a lot of people that have done self-development within BeCollaboration and have gone on maybe the our flagship course, the Be Inspired course, and have learned so much, or have been recommended to go on to Landmark Education, or have been recommended to go on I've forgotten the name of it now. Nope, it's gone. There's another version a bit like Landmark, but whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying, whether it's Anthony Robbins or whatever, I think people that are out to make a difference to others and to the rest of the world and realize that the time on earth is their time to create something where they can leave a legacy. I think they're going to be fascinated by connecting with you in order for them to explore something else. It might not be new to them, they might have experienced it before, but it will be something else, obviously from a different perspective, from your perspective, because I would imagine what you're sharing is going to be pretty unique from where you come from. Although other people might be doing it, there's still going to be your take on how it's done.
We all have our own take, but whichever discipline it is that we specialize in, everybody has their own life experience which they bring into it. And I've had my life experience of heartbreak in different areas that I bring into this. And the beauty is we all have something to contribute to each other. We can always learn, and the most successful people I've come across are the people who never stop learning.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody paid me to learn, that would be amazing. But the thing is, you learn and you pay other people to learn, and then you go and spread it, pass it forward, don't you? And then sometimes people pay you to learn the lessons.
I do. I really believe that now I get paid to do two things: to have fun at the time of my life, and to learn. Because every person that turns up on one of my courses is teaching me as much as I'm teaching them. Whilst I'm teaching them what I've learned, that's helped me. They're teaching me to become better at what I do by helping them.
It's fair, isn't it? That's a win-win. So I know you've got a course coming up fairly soon, haven't you? Is it next weekend?
It's next Friday, 7 days from now, and it's sold out. So that's the last one for another 6 months. So
okay, so when's the next one? Back in
it's November. Early November.
And if somebody was interested in getting on that already and get themselves a place, because I know they usually sell out, how could they get in touch with you?
Through my website, which is sanjayshah.tv, sanjayshah.tv. Connect with me and have what I call a meaningful conversation, because really it's about you having a sense of, is this really going to help you? Because it might not be the thing for you, it might be something else. And I only want to work with people that I know I can help, and they know that I can help them as well, because then it's a win-win situation.
One of the things as well, I remember you saying when you were recommending it to me, and I have yet to go on, so I'm hoping I can do the November one, but it isn't just for people that have a need, is it? It's also for people like myself that are voracious learners and want to understand more and find out more. Not just for me to obviously improve myself, but then to be able to pass it on to other people as well. To support
because it's a skill set that fits into anything else that you're doing, because it's a core competency. Just like thinking is, so are emotions. And if you can learn to combine the two, and then also at some stage develop the third one, which is the gut instinct, then you are using all of your God-given, if I call it that, intelligence is to their maximum. Because most of us only use one system. Some of us are lucky enough to use two, but a few of us are very, very fortunate to have come across teachings which teach us all three of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I would imagine most coaches would find it useful. And I suppose that, is there a kind of a line that you say, if you get triggered very easily by somebody else, if you find that there's something missing in your life, if you believe that other people are always wrong and you're always right, if you know, all these kind of things that are kind of consistently you, but actually they're restricting you rather than helping you to grow, then this is the sort of course that is going to release all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of coaches, actually business coaches, who come to me because they know that with my skill set I can do things to help the clients that they can't. So quite often I get referrals from business coaches, because whilst they're absolutely brilliant at their business coaching,
so different,
do the sort of things that I do. And because we're in different types of fields, there's no kind of competition between us.
Totally collaborative, isn't it?
I work with a lot of business people, but if any of the business people came to me and said, actually, I've got this business strategy problem, I know the people to refer them to, and it's not me, because I don't know anything about business strategy to the level at which business coaches do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, listen, can you believe, Sanjay, that we've been talking nearly an hour? This has been fascinating. I've absolutely loved it. Is there anything else that you feel you wanted to share that I've not asked you a question or you wanted to say? Or
what I do, what I teach, is an experience. It can't be learned from a book. There's a reason I haven't written a book yet. It's because I'm still at the stage at which I believe the best way of teaching is to give people an experience of what it is. And mind intelligence is something you can learn from theory. Emotional intelligence, you can't get from theory, you have to experience. You can't think about a feeling, you have to feel a feeling.
Yeah.
Just as you can't feel a thought, you have to think it.
That's a really good combination. Yeah, a really good way of looking at it. But I do think, as somebody who helps people write books, I do think a book is a wonderful thing to support people on their journey, because it's also a stepping stone for the experience.
I'm sure it will come about.
Do that one day.
And is maybe you and I should be sitting down so you can teach.
So I think I would love to do that. Pick your brain. That would be fantastic. So we know how to get in touch with you. That's sanjayshah.tv at...
that's the website. So the email address is sanjay@sanjayshah.tv.
Okay. And the next program is in November, but if they want to see you, we have to come to BeCollaboration and see you.
Yeah, I mean, there are things they can do in between. They don't have to wait for the course, but BeCollaboration is a good opportunity to actually get to meet me and talk to me.
Yeah. Find out all the stuff that you don't know about yourself and about you as well. Thank you so much.
And teach me at the same time, because I'm there to learn.
Well, exactly. It's fascinating. And to be honest, there are an awful lot of business coaches and life coaches and personal development coaches within the BeCollaboration community. So to know that they've got you kind of in their back pocket, I think is a massive asset. And there should be lots of potential collaborations and projects that you could do together. I'm sure people are mulling it over. We need to get you more visible in our community, which is why you're here, basically. So thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure having you on our podcast, Journey of Possibility. Just to remind people, we've got meetings coming up. We've got Hertford on the 17th of May. We've got Surrey the following Thursday. We've got London, which is the 28th of May. After that, just after the bank holiday weekend, we are launching Liverpool on the 17th of May. So very excited about that. Sangeeta Patel is busy pulling all those wonderful people in from Liverpool, a city that knows about community. So I'm really interested to get up there and see what they make of BeCollaboration. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be launching in West London as well on the 4th of September, but that's to be confirmed. Please, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends and come along to a BeCollaboration meeting. To find out where and how to book on, just go to BeCollaboration.com and you'll find all the details in there as well. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, Sanjay. It's been great having you on.
Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.